I'm Jennifer Hutton, a pediatric physical therapist. I am a woman of today, positioning myself for tomorrow.
Okay, yay!
Yay!
You're here. So this is special to me because we go back to diapers. I mean, we don't remember diapers, but
we don't remember diapers. But our parents were friends, and they pretty much put us in a room and said, "Y'all gonna be friends. Deal with it."
And you really been my friend
Ace.
since then. You have never changed. I appreciate you for that.
I appreciate you.
Yeah. So this is cool, and I want to start off with your recent baby.
Oh, yes.
Because we talked about, I think for the last few years, we've talked about how you were transitioning into your own boss, entrepreneurship, and it wasn't easy. It was scary.
Ooh, extremely scary.
What was the scariest part?
Well, I think mainly because when you are in the field I'm in, a pediatric physical therapist,
Yeah.
you are going into healthcare. And in healthcare, they train you to be a clinician because they want you to be a cog in the wheel. So when you start to see things behind the scenes and you start to see, ooh, this is not working for the masses.
Yeah.
This is working for the healthcare system. And you start to ask questions and you start to make suggestions and they start to realize, oh, she don't want to be a cog no more. Mm-hmm. Then you kind of get a target on your back. And I did at work. I started to do things like teach outside of my clinical job and take time away to better myself as a professional. And my managers did not like that. And the things
they didn't like it. They obviously didn't like it. It was blatant.
There were questions of my morality, questions of my ethics. I would be told I could do certain things. Yes, you can go off and teach for a week and then come back, and this is how you do it. And I would do it exactly how they told me, and then they say you did it wrong, so we reported you to HR. It was just a cascade of things. And I finally just said, I don't think I can be who I am now in this system. And I had started to feel like that probably 6 years into practicing.
Yeah.
I was like, I dreamed this dream. I wanted to do this. I wanted to work here. And now I'm here and I stopped dreaming. And I need to find out what's supposed to be next.
Did it feel like a fraud? Did it feel fake? Did it feel like, oh, I had this dream and this is not what I thought it was going to be?
Oh, no. The dream was very real.
Okay.
It was based off lived experience that I had had up until that point.
Got it.
And then I lived a little more in that dream and I grew. And I think it just got uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because, you learn
You're growing.
Different things from the kids that you're working with, the families that you're working with. And if your true goal is to help the patient, you start to see how you're operating is not helping them.
It's not helping them.
It's not helping your ultimate goal. So you have to make a decision. Either you stay and you decide, no, but I'm going to stay in the system and do my best and fight. And I just have always felt like I fight better outside the system. So that was the next step, was figuring out, how am I going to do this?
Who helped you make the decision? What did you do to gather up the courage or the confidence to say, I'm taking this step of because did you resign?
I did.
You resigned?
I resigned, but 2 years before I resigned, I took a continuing education teaching job that made me, I had to travel 1 week out of the month.
Okay.
And that allowed me to meet different people from different professions within healthcare, some of them doing what I ultimately am doing now, kind of forging their own path. So I got to see more possibilities with that one choice. And it was interesting because my job actually told me no the first time I asked them to go teach. They said, we're on salary. We wouldn't know how to, figure it out. So I went above my boss to my administrator. And our job was a place that made so many, they made so many exceptions for women with children. And I hadn't chosen to have children, but I was still making a big life change.
Yeah.
And I felt like it was unfair that just because it wasn't a child that
That
it
there
wasn't
wasn't room
respected
for you.
and
Yeah.
you couldn't figure out how to make it happen. So I said that. I went to my administrator. I said, this is what you all do every day for my colleagues who come back and they've had kids and they want to change their hours. This is what you do. So why is mine any different? And I think that was when the bullseye came on my back because they were like, okay, now you're talking about fairness. And
yeah.
we don't really like that word. We don't like
Yeah.
that term in healthcare.
Yeah.
But that choice, best choice I ever made, because it really showed me you can do this. You can figure it out along the way. It's not the path that you thought it was going to be,
Yeah.
but you're going to be able to figure it out.
And you're figuring it out.
Ooh, every day.
Every day.
Every
so
day.
tell me what is a day in the life of, I would just say, not an entrepreneur, because that's just too damn
Right.
much. But when you're working with children, what does that look like? What are you assessing, and what is the activity?
Okay, so like a session.
Yeah, like what is a session?
So an evaluation would be a child comes in with a certain diagnosis, and I see anything from literal 0, like just came out the womb, to 19. So I could have a child come in with a diagnosis of cerebral palsy, and then my goal is, okay, what are you able to do? At your age, what should you be able to do? I don't like to say typical because there's just so many different paths now.
Yeah.
And then how can I help you reach those goals? Is it going to take coming to see me once a week? Is it going to take equipment? And we're going to have to figure out how to get you a home program. And then that would be the path for them. Or it could be a teenager that tore their ACL and they want to get back to whatever sport it is. So then I have protocols I have to follow because they've had surgery and the surgeon says, we don't want you to do this, X, Y, Z. So you kind of follow a path to get them back to their sport.
And you love it because you see from the beginning to the end.
I absolutely love it. I get to spend more time with the child and the family. So you kind of become part of the village when you're doing that.
And do you get a lot of fulfillment from that, but do you get a lot of appreciation from your clients and your patients?
It depends on the day.
Yeah.
Sometimes I've had kids that literally will say, Miss Jennifer, you're exhausting me. Like I've had 4-year-olds say, I don't want to do anything that you have lined up for me today. I don't want to come to therapy. And I started to enjoy even those sessions because it allowed me to connect with the child on a different level. So there's times when I've had kids come into sessions and we don't do any work, but we maybe talk about what happened at school that brought them to this mood and how can we get them out of this mood so that we can do something fun that they enjoy while they're with me. So it becomes more than just about physical therapy. It's about the whole child.
It's like the holistic approach. Because even what I've been learning now is that biology, psychology, and your social setting are all connected.
All of it.
So sometimes in your body, it shows you what you're not doing with your emotional life and things like that. So having those conversations can set you up for more success.
We call that the biopsychosocial model of treatment. You're looking at all of the aspects because when it comes to how I treat a child, how I talk to a child, if a kid comes in and they're from a single parent home where the mom is working 2 to 3 jobs, I can't send home hundreds of exercises and expect them to be done. I have to consider the home life. I have to consider the school life. I have to consider the work life when I make the plan for that child. So it changes, depending on who's in front of me.
Well, they're so lucky to have you. Okay, so I'm so excited because, ta-da!
My baby.
The Get Moving activity deck for kids. And it hasn't even been launched. Has it been 30 days?
Yeah.
Okay, when did it launch?
February 14th.
Okay, February 14th. I thought it was March.
February 14th.
Not even 2 months. No. And you already have 2 awards.
Yes.
Okay.
The National Parenting Product Award and the Mom's Choice Award.
That's fucking crazy.
No, it's insane. I didn't know those things were possible, to be honest with you.
First of all, I remember we talked before the launch. You were like, it's about to happen. And you were like, I want to do more. I want to promote this. I want everyone to know about it. And people know about it.
Yeah. And more people are learning about it. And it's just crazy to see something that came from your heart in people's homes, and you're getting messages from parents like, my kid loves it, or teachers.
That's insane.
I had a teacher text me this week, said my kid was working with it and they said, I want this for Christmas. So It's like watching your dream just come to fruition. It's unreal.
Have you taken a moment? Have you taken any moments to just like either like cry, scream, pray, like, because this is real?
I've done all of it, especially when the awards came, because I didn't expect that, and I can honestly say I didn't do it for that reason.
Yeah.
Like, I had specific reasons why I wanted this thing to come out, and to see other, accolades come and people recognize, no, everything that you wanted to happen is happening in this, and we see it. It just feels so good.
Yeah. And okay, so how long did it take you to prepare this for the world?
So they approached me in 2020.
Okay.
About it. I think I put the proposal in January of 2021. And once they approved it, I've pretty much been working on it since then. I think the final year, 2022, was more color palette, making sure all of the illustrations were good. I have a dope illustrator too. Like,
wait, I know that you specifically wanted to work with certain people.
Sure did.
Who was the people that you wanted?
A woman of color.
Yeah.
I know the illustration. I've seen the illustrative space. I mean, and I've seen the space even for stuff like this. These type of decks, therapists use them to work with kids because it's way more fun than, okay, let's get on the floor and crawl. And it's like you are making it fun.
Yeah.
Using their imagination. But none of the decks that I used had kids with disabilities or kids with differences.
Yeah.
And I would have to modify and say, okay, well, let's do it this way for you. And this, I was able to say, no, I can think of all the kids that I've worked with as I'm creating it.
Yeah.
And as I'm saying to the illustrator, we need this representation. We need kids in wheelchairs. We need kids with prosthetics. We need kids with amputated limbs. We need kids with cochlear implants. Like, I could say all of the things that I know I've never seen before while we were working on this. And it was actually a really fun process for me.
Yeah. I'm just looking at it like, this takes work. This takes effort. So tell me, like, obviously it's a helpful deck, creative movement ideas for little bodies. Mm-hmm. And so this is basically created to be a fun instructions on exercises.
On movement. I was able to break down all of the components of movement: stability, mobility, strength, breathing.
Yeah.
Being aware of your body and what it might need in that moment. All of the things that I think kids are missing out on because we're just kind of training them to be robots.
Yeah.
So they're able to explore their entire body with this deck. And it's in, not just in the illustrations, it's in the directions I give, it's in the little key tips that I do or the modifications that I give them. Just a chance to say, hey, what can my body do?
Yeah. Because right now, like, the generation is basically like iPads, iPhone, laptop, TV.
Yes.
There's not really a lot, unless you're in a sport.
Yes.
There's not really a lot of like outside play and like discovery.
And
is
honestly,
that true? Like, I feel like that's what's happening, but I don't have children. So is that what's happening?
It's absolutely what's happening. And we are developing so much in some of these metro spaces that there really aren't a whole lot of parks and play places, or you might not live in an area that's safe enough for you to go to those places. You may not even live in a home that has enough space. So how can we get you moving with what you have? And so I, like I said, had to think of not just movement. I had to think of all of the lived experiences of the kids that I had worked with and put it into how I created this deck.
What would you say to parents, children? I know that movement is intelligence, right? Mm-hmm. Like, movement is so important. Like, for me, even like in my day as a grown woman, it's like sometimes if I've just been laying down too much or sitting in front of the computer, if I'm not moving, like I'll do something. I'll just do some movement. I'll do some jumping jack or something. And that just kind of helps my mood.
Yeah, it gets you moving, get your whole body flowing. The one thing I would tell parents is start incorporating movement into your children's lives now. I think that is one thing that I'm grateful to my parents, that there was a rule in our house. You had to play a sport.
Okay.
And you had to play an instrument. And I didn't always like the sports that I had to play, but because movement was solid, a pillar from the beginning, I found my own ways of moving. I said, no, I don't want to do gymnastics. I want to do dance.
Yeah.
I really don't want to do swimming. I want to go do tap. I found ways to fit into that rule, but also do it in a way that I loved. And now I cannot not exercise. I cannot not move. And I've diversified. So now if I don't want to go to the gym this week, I don't have to.
Yeah.
I can go to the park.
You can go to the park. I can go dancing.
I can get on YouTube and find some dance videos that I want to do.
Yeah.
But now that it's in me and I know I have to move, I just find the ways that work for me in that moment.
So planting that seed early on, my mom did it for me. Like I saw my mom and dad both playing tennis. We just saw them being active.
We did.
So we became active.
Yep.
And then now it's like, it's a lifesaver to have that muscle memory. To have the muscle memory to just be like, okay, I know I can, ramp it up when I need to. And you're not like, oh, what is my body? What is my body doing? You're not familiar with your body. So
right. And it also gives you that, that foundation so that when your body does change, because the body I have now ain't the body I had in my 20s.
Okay, body
right? And now I'm saying, okay, maybe I can't run every day, but I can do other things to get my heart rate up, and I can do other things to challenge myself.
Yeah.
But like I said, that pillar of movement is there, so I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to move into equality. And showing, and I'm because you're gonna get my words together. Get my words, because it's equity, equality, fairness, allyship, all that stuff. But you wanted to make sure that there was no child or no person forgotten in this, in your illustrations, in your tips, in your work, in the workbook. So I was talking to my sister, my cousin, earlier today, and this conversation brought me to our conversation in LA, where I was explaining to them how in my life and career, I have been judged in a way of feeling like, oh, I have it easy, or my contribution to what I do is not like the real thing, right? Based on my foundation, based on my life circumstances, how I grew up, and all that, right? And I kind of was wanting to defend myself and say like, well, everyone makes choices. I made these choices. These choices got me here. And I felt very confident in saying that because I know my own struggles. I know this shit is not easy. It has never been easy.
Right.
And then my sister was like, yeah, everyone has choices, but everyone doesn't have access to the same choices.
Exactly.
And that was impactful for me because I'm like, damn, that's true. Like some people won't even be in the room to make that choice.
Exactly.
And that I didn't make a choice to be invited to the room. I just was invited to the room, and some people can't even get in that room. So it showed me that, wow, like, yeah, there is a lot of unfairness and inequality that just happens in life, and we're so not aware of it. And I say all that to say, in LA, you broke that whole thing down for me. You did, because I can't remember what we were talking about, but you said you were having a conversation with someone, a colleague or somebody, and you had to explain to them the difference between equality and fairness.
Oh.
Do you remember that?
Yeah. I believe that was the equity.
Yes, equity.
Conversation.
Yes. Can you please tell the people? Because I feel like you made it so clear the difference between equity and fairness.
Yeah. Fairness or equality is, okay, everybody in this room right now, I got a bike for everybody, and I buy the same bike for everybody. I don't care if you like pink, blue, everybody's getting this black bike with 2 wheels, no training wheels. This is what you get. But if I have somebody in the room who's 6'6", and then I have somebody in the room who's 5'6", then they're going to need different heights of bike, right? They're going to need different sizes. If I have someone who is in a wheelchair, they're going to need an adaptable bike. So equity says, okay, I want to provide everyone with a bike, but I need to ask them what type of bike they need. Equity does not assume that it knows just because it sees the outside of a person exactly what they're going to give them. Equity says, I'm going to ask. I want to get the specifics right so that when I give this, quote, gift, I give a gift that they can actually use.
Yes.
So, case in point, when, the government was giving out all those COVID tests,
Yeah.
they gave like 2 COVID tests per household. It's not always 2 people in a household.
Yeah.
Equity would have said, apply for how many that you need, and then we will send you that amount. So that's the piece that people don't usually look at. You actually have to go. It takes longer.
Yeah.
It definitely does. But if you truly want to give people what they are asking for, then you got to ask them and you got to listen to what they say.
That's incredible. I'm still shook by the clarity of that explanation, because fairness is to assume, okay, we're all going to get you the same thing, but everyone doesn't need the same thing. So that person that doesn't need that standard thing really doesn't have much at all because they can't use it.
And so when you said everybody makes choices, that's an equality standpoint. Assuming that everybody has the necessary resources to make the same choices that you did. You can look at yourself and say, what privilege do I have? What privilege was I given that most people were not? Now, the problem with most Black people is we do glorify a struggle, so people don't want to accept when they've had privilege because they feel like it takes them out of context with their people.
Yes.
But truthfully, if you acknowledge the privilege that you had, then you could figure out how you could use it for your people. And that's the goal, not to distance yourself from it. I know I have privilege.
Yeah, because see, that's what I'm thinking. Like how you said, it distances us from our people, and it also kind of feels like it devalues, in a sense, where it's just like, if you admit that you have privilege, then we already know that the work that you put in is not equal to someone else who did the same thing. If that's what it feels like, and I think that's where my defense came from. It's just like, no, y'all aren't gonna put me in that box. I work hard. I keep going. I challenge myself.
Yeah. So the question I would ask is, why is it so important for people to know that you worked so hard for what you got?
Well, I think it feels crazy to know on a day-to-day the work that you put in, and then for someone to kind of, yeah, I mean, she did that, but it ain't. It feels, you just feel isolated. You feel just kind of, well, like, damn. And it's not so much that I'm the one that's going around telling people, but if you're in a space where that comes up and you see what someone's opinion of you is, then you start to become aware of how you're seen, and then it doesn't feel good. It just doesn't feel good.
It doesn't feel good, but I also have had to get to the point, and I think it's because I have been judged like that since I was younger. That's your business. If you feel that way about me, you have adequate opportunity to come and talk to me. We can talk about my lived experience, but you feeling like the work I put in is really not work is your problem. It's not mine. Yeah. I know what I do every day. I know what I put in every day, and I don't do it for you. I do it for me. Now, I will use whatever I get from it to help you, because I would love to if that's what's needed in this moment. But that internalizing that you're not for everybody, and that everybody's not going to get curious enough to figure out what your story is, allows you to accept that moment and then move on.
Yeah, get me together, Jennifer, because you're the only one who I trust to get me together, because you know me and you love me. So, but okay, so what would, like you were saying, using that privilege to help our people, what is a way that you feel that we could use our privilege?
Well, I'm gonna just address the first one. Let's talk about light skin privilege.
Okay.
Let's talk about it.
I'm caramel.
Okay. Let's talk about light skin privilege again. There are people who will accept you more or ask you to come into rooms faster simply because you look closer to what is mainstream. Yeah. Right? If you get that invitation into that room, go in the room and look in the room. Look who's in the room and see, is it just people that look like me in this room? And who do I talk to so that we can increase the visibility and representation in the room? There have been panels with friends of color where people have said, hey, would you join the panel? And I'm like, nah, because if y'all don't have somebody that's darker than all of us on here, we're not addressing everybody.
Yeah.
We're just talking about our own lived experience, and people see that. But if you can take that privilege that you have and speak up for the ones that are not in the room, that can change everything. So you use that the same way. If you have 12,000 followers, I know this one can get a little hazy because I know people like to use it, but if you have a certain platform, let's just say platform, that has a lot of visibility, and there are people who do either similar work or sometimes better work than you do, but they don't have it, why can't you collaborate with them so that they can get some visibility from your people? Mm-hmm. It's okay to accept the privilege when you understand it's powerful. If you don't just use it for yourself, then it just becomes selfish.
Yeah. And so do you see that happening a lot? Do you see people risking it all to include their people?
I think we need to define what risk would be, because it may not look like they're risking it all to me.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
But they may be foregoing certain things that a platform gives them in order to.
Because, for instance, I guess it's all, depending on the individual situation, but what happens a lot in the music industry is you say you have your A&Rs and you have the different people that they're so scared to lose their job that they won't sign someone super talented. They won't sign someone that doesn't look mainstream. They won't sign they'll just go after the numbers or like the analytics versus saying, no, this person is talented. I'm going to go out for them and making a breakthrough and finding the next superstar. They're so scared to lose their position that they will just go along and be like the cog in the wheel.
And they have a boss.
Yeah.
They have a boss that's saying, I need you to hit these numbers. And at that moment, that check might be the most important thing to them. That doesn't mean that they won't evolve, though, and say, okay, forget all this. I'm going to forego the check, go start my own label, go start my own firm, and struggle so that I can work with the artists that I know are talented. I'm watching it in my own home with my husband. I know that the goal that he has is to build something where there is true talent, not just something that sells, right? And that's a risk. A risk to say I'm foregoing the check. But everybody, again, is not in the position to take the risk.
Yeah.
And they have to decide for themselves when they can or if they want to. And if they don't, I think we also got to stop judging that person because we don't have their lived experience either.
They don't bear the weight of the world, and they're not meant to.
But I feel like you are seeing more people break away in that music industry and do their own solo indie, private
it's
records.
Way easier now. Way easier.
And indie, I feel like they have more power now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they have more platforms that they can use.
Yeah, they're straight to consumer.
Straight to the
They
person.
don't have to go through the big buildings anymore. Yeah, and they need to watch out because it's changing.
They know.
It's shifting.
They know.
Yeah.
TikTok showed everybody, I think.
Yeah.
When you started to hear songs that weren't released.
Yeah.
And people were like, where's the SoundCloud? Where's the this? We're going past the middleman and we're going straight to the consumer.
Yeah. I love that.
I do too.
I mean, shit, like get out the way.
Because it's all systems, and all of the systems are built on the system that America has created.
Yeah.
And that has tiers, that has hierarchy, and it always will.
Yeah.
It always will until you burn it down.
Until you burn it down.
That's it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm all for burning it down.
Where's the match? Okay, this other word, allyship.
Ooh.
Now, I remember you going deep into this. It had to be 2021 around that time. Was it
2020?
2020?
Yeah.
And I remember we talked a few times, and it was a lot of frustration because it was a lot of like fakeness, right?
Yeah.
What does allyship truly mean?
Allyship means you are showing up for someone else because you care about their lived experience. That's the most basic term. It's a way of life. It's not just a title that you put in your bio. It's not just something you put on a shirt or a poster when you go to a protest. It's actively saying, not always putting people first in terms of like losing yourself.
Yeah.
Because I truly believe people should bring their self to that party, that allyship party, because there are things that you care about. There are things that you're good at. There are skill sets that you have that we need.
Yeah.
But we need them for other people. So it's basically just showing up for other people.
And so it's also like taking that risk for some people, feeling like a risk.
And it looks different for everybody. And that's one of the things I teach a lot of. In 2020.
You teach executives how to really be about that?
So I have a community called Building Allyship where it was originally for just health and wellness professionals who were like, we want to do better, but we don't know how to do better. And
do they really want to do better?
Girl, yes.
Okay.
But you have it's all in how you position it.
Okay.
I'm not coming to you saying you're going to make more money if this ain't about money for me.
Yeah.
I'm not coming here saying you're going to be the best practitioner I'm not really trying to make you the best practitioner. I'm trying to help you figure out how to get outside of yourself and actually care about other people's lived experience. So in the community, we go through, what do you believe about the systems that have been built in America? What do you know about history? What did your family teach you? What are some of the things that you heard that might have formed biases in your home? Now that you know these things and you've acknowledged them, you feel guilty. Okay, let it go, right? Because we gotta get to the next step. Now let's really take a look at history.
People get stuck on that guilt.
They get stuck on that guilt, and it don't feel good. Nobody likes to feel guilty.
Yeah.
But honestly, this is what we have now. We didn't create.
Yeah,
we were handed this mess.
Yeah.
So once you've worked through and processed, I did believe this about Black people. I did believe this about Latino people. Now that you know that, how can we change that narrative? How can we figure out how you can learn more lived experiences? And then we can talk about disparities. Then we can talk about why certain people have certain diagnoses. But when we start there, it just creates this divisiveness in your head, like, well, only Black people really can get diabetes because they don't really eat healthy and da-da-da.
Yeah.
No, let's talk about how we didn't have access to all the healthy food. So it's stuff like that we talk about,
and that goes back to the fairness. That goes back to the
equity.
Yeah,
the equity piece.
Yeah. So you have to realize that we're not choosing to live in these neighborhoods.
They put us here.
Yeah, and they're keeping us here. By a bunch of different
systems that are working in play. And it can feel like you have to stay in survival mode to just be alive. So how can if I'm always in survival mode, how do I have the space to be creative?
You don't.
How do I have the space to find something different for me to do?
You don't.
It's
almost, survival mode is almost like never sleeping.
Yes. You're always exhausted.
You're exhausted.
Yeah.
You don't have a moment to rest. And it kind of gets back, I just want to touch on this a little. It kind of gets back to where somebody's problems seem like nothing to another person's problem. It's like, oh, girl, okay. I always see it on social media, oh, that's rich people's problems, or oh, that's, celebrity problems, or that's above my tax bracket. People really will dismiss other people's lived experience because, one, they don't understand, and they can't relate. They can't relate, and they don't. And so what you can't relate to, you can't really appreciate or respect.
Exactly.
And on another, when I was talking to with Jasmine, how we were talking about, like, I made the comment, I was like, you're ghetto fabulous, right? And looking back, you helped me to realize that you knew that I was saying it as a compliment, like, or just more so like not a dig, right? It was more like, oh, you got a little ghetto in you, you got a little fabulous in you, and you should show up, and I love it, right? And you told me, you said you have to consider where she is in her life.
Well, no, you have to consider the term
and how it's
been used, who created it, and why are you saying it?
Yeah.
Like, if it might be a compliment to someone who has lived experience in the ghetto, those two people may be able to say that to each other and feel fine. You with the privilege walking in here,
it just ain't going. It's not going to be right. It's not going
to hit the same. And it does sometimes take that connection to realize there are some terms that we use in our community that actually everybody cannot say. We use the term bougie. If I call you bougie, what you gonna say? Girl,
yeah, that happened. Two people called me bougie, and I took offense to it. And they explained to me that no, they thought that meant that I just had my stuff together. I knew what I wanted, and I just came through. Like, it was a positive thing to them.
But you thought, okay, but that takes me away from the groundedness of my people.
Yeah.
You thought that made you look like Stacey Dash.
Yeah.
So you were like,
exactly.
No, I'm still black. I'm still this. I'm still that. And it again, it's a term that if we use it because we know each other and we have been around each other, when I say it, it's not a dig. But there are terms like ghetto families, and when you take the term ghetto, like, let's go back to the history of ghetto.
Yeah.
And let's look at why we even have ghettos, like what they're called.
Yeah.
So when you say it to someone, you got to think of the entire context of the term and how that person might received it based off their own lived experience.
Yep.
It's a lot. It's a lot of awareness, and I think that's what stops people from going down the journey.
Racist. I'm like,
it's so much where you're like,
I
gotta consider, and it can be exhausting, but once you practice it, it just comes naturally.
Yeah.
The filter's there where you stop and you're like, ooh, if I say that with that probably won't come off the same way. Nope, I'm gonna keep it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I get that. Wow.
This feels like
You're
just
so
the
smart.
basement conversations.
Okay, hold on. Self-actualization, which to me is finally going back, all the way back as far as you can remember for me, and going to the root of who I am as a person, and then forgiving myself for certain things, accepting myself for certain things, and then fully embodying myself and using that to push me forward. That's how I'm like envisioning self-actualization. And I know that we talked, you bring up ADHD?
I have ADD.
ADD.
Not the H. I don't have the H.
ADD. Okay. And what have you learned about your ADD in the last several years? Because I feel like you learned that it's not what you thought it was.
I thought it was the hyperactivity portion. Like, I thought if you weren't hyperactive and couldn't pay attention, then you don't have it. You're good.
Yeah.
But for me, it came up when I was trying to pass my boards. I couldn't pass them. I couldn't pass the test, and I had done well in school. I had done well. All of the other tests were great, but when it came to this standardized 4-hour test, I was not passing it. So they finally sent me to get tested, and we found out that it was ADD. I was having difficulty with how the questions were being asked, pulling out the right information, the length of the questions. I would have to read them 2 or 3 times. And so I thought, okay, this is where it stops. We put me on medication. I learned how I need to study. Boom. Once I get out of this, I'm done. And then it was the cascade of, actually the hyperfixation piece, which affects not just your productivity, it affects your relationships, it affects your connections, the connections you make, the connections that you keep, emotional dysregulation, that fear, that rejection dysphoria where you internalize all of those feelings. Those are the things that have unfolded in the last few years. And I think the biggest thing I've learned is we've been taught what ADD is. It's right, but it's wrong.
Yes, because they're describing it. They're not talking about the root. Where did it come from? How did you develop this hyperfixation or the need to be hyperfixated or all these different irregulations, right?
Or the fact that there was a huge increase in those people who have been diagnosed since 2020. And now we're at the point where we're running out of medication because they can only make so much for the population that has it, and they haven't adjusted those numbers. There's so many pieces that I'm learning where I'm like, this doesn't just feel like a diagnosis. It feels like a shift in culture. It feels like a shift in how people are thinking. And at some point, we're going to have to acknowledge that the way that we do things and how standardized they are has to change.
It has to change.
Because there's a whole population of people that can't do it that way.
You can't do it that way.
They can't function that way.
Yeah.
I learned I can't function in strict systems. I get so irritated and stressed and exhausted. I lose weight. I am not kind at all.
Yeah.
If there's too many parameters around me. I need freedom of movement. I need freedom of thought. I need freedom of creativity. That meant I had to leave a system and create my own, which is also hard.
Yeah.
Because if you have the executive dysfunction piece and you don't know how to start something or create or organize something, you need help for that too.
Yeah.
So it can feel very daunting. And I'm very grateful for the educators who have chosen to come outside of just the mental health practice and onto social media, onto these platforms, and actually help us understand it and give us tools on how to manage it. I think that's been the biggest blessing for me when it comes to figuring out how I can work with it and not use it as an excuse.
Absolutely. Like, I feel like that is one of the gifts of the internet, of social media, where you're finding out there's places where you belong. There's people that are dealing with the same things, and we all have questions, and we're asking each other and we're answering it for each other, and we're finding out that it's okay. Like, you don't have to feel isolated.
Yeah.
Because I think isolation just drives the sadness and the depression and the anxiety when you feel like it's just you.
Yes.
When you feel like you're weird, or when you feel like, for me, I think for a lot of part of my life, people acted like I lived in a fantasy world. And it's just like, no, I'm just not doing that shit. I can't. I'm allergic to the box. I can't be in it.
And sometimes we don't have the language to say that. I think now that we're gaining tools, I can communicate. When someone asks me to do something, I know what time do you need it by and what date, because I know I work by deadlines.
Yeah.
So if it's 11:59 on the day you need it, you're going to get it. But if you gave me a deadline that wasn't real, you know what I'm saying? Like, I used to get people say, oh, we need this. I'm like, but the event's not for 6 more months. What are you going to do with it when you get it? Is it going to sit there?
Yeah.
It just makes you feel better. What day do you need it?
Yeah.
Because that's the only way that I'm going to be able to do this. And now that I can communicate how I work, it also changes what I say yes and no to. Because if someone says, we want you to do this project, okay, how many meetings do we have to show up to? 1 a week? That's not for me.
Yeah.
Can I come once a month? Like, those are the things I have to ask, because I know I'm going to shift to a person that I can't, it's not going to be nice. You're not going to enjoy working with me if I have to go along with these parameters. So it shapes your yeses and your nos, and it shapes everything. So I think the awareness piece has just been a gift. Yeah. A true gift.
Okay, well, I will say this. Social media, like you're saying, has been a gift. It's helped you a lot. Where can people find you on social media, and anything else that you want to share about your deck? Because I want the people to know how to find you, how to learn more about this allyship, which is so important. Equity, equality, like really everyone digging into that so that we can really make the shift that we want. Yeah.
So my main platform is Instagram. Dr.J-Pop, Dr.J-P-O-P. I have a podcast called Beyond Allyship with Dr. J-Pop if they want to learn more for free. And you can find the deck on Amazon.com, on BarnesandNoble.com, on Walmart.com. Those are the 3 places that you can order it. And if you want to, you can do some guerrilla warfare for me and go ask your local toy stores if they have it, so they can go looking for it too.
I order mine for when my child gets here. I'm not pregnant.
I'm about to say, you might want to put that in. And it begins. The rumors start.
I'm just saying, like, I'm not. But just at one point, I already have mine. It'll be here tomorrow. Good. I ordered it on Amazon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Boo.
Thank you.
I love you so much.
I love you,
we probably have to do a part 2 because I didn't finish.
Okay.
It's not done.
Girl, I'll come back.